Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Juta Padkamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsya Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamsya He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpa Tarubhyascha Pasindubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So reading from chapter 16. I did 13 to 15, no? Yeah. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from chapter 16, 13 to 15. So we already read the Sanskrit before. Now just read the translation. Mother, you want to read the translation? 13 to 15?
The demonic person thinks so much wealth do I have today, and I will gain more according to my schemes. So much is mine now, and it will increase in the future more and more. He is my enemy, and I have killed him, and my other enemies will also be killed. I am the Lord of everything. I am the enjoyer. I am perfect, powerful, and happy. I am the richest man, surrounded by aristocratic relatives. There is none so powerful and happy as I am. I shall perform sacrifices. I shall give some charity, and thus I shall rejoice. In this way, such persons are deluded by ignorance.
Very good, well done. Nice reading. Very good. So in these three verses, Krishna has described the demoniac qualities of the demons. So what are the different qualities you can pick up from here? 13 to 15.
He becomes proud because he's got wealth, and
Yes.
he thinks that he can keep on increasing the wealth.
Correct. So first thing is demoniac qualities, that person is very proud of his wealth. Now for a devotee, for every quality of demons, we will look for how devotees can fall into the trap and how we can avoid that. Because we are not talking about somebody else here, we are talking about ourselves here, just in case we didn't realize it. Demoniac qualities are present in all of us to some extent or other, unless one is a pure devotee, completely free from demoniac qualities. We have some demoniac qualities, most of us. So therefore it is very relevant for us to think, to understand how one gets into that situation, and how to get out of that situation, how devotees have to be careful. Then this chapter is very instructive for us. Otherwise, if you think we are devotees, doesn't apply to me, I only read the first 3 shlokas, the rest is not for me. Not right. So, the first statement is making here, Krishna, that demonic person thinks, so much wealth do I have today. So, how does he get into that situation? And how we can avoid getting into the situation. Microphone, use the microphone. Microphone.
I might be not on the track actually. Still. Here the demonic person says that this is my wealth and I have wealth today. Well, according to a devotee, he will think that this is Krishna's wealth, and the wealth will go now. If you I mean, if it's there today, it will go into tomorrow. And if you use for Krishna, that is more spiritually, it will benefit it, not materially.
Okay, you answered my second question.
That's why I said I'm not on track.
No, good. Yeah, your answer is good. But the second question. So we'll park that for a minute.
Yeah.
Okay, let's come to the first question. How does one get into the mentality? We know it's wrong, right? We all know it's wrong. There's no that so much wealth I have today. That mentality. Because of ignorance of what? Specifically. Be more specific. Generally, ignorance is correct. But what specific? Ignorant of what? Correct. Very good. Yes. So the first knowledge of Supreme Personality of Godhead. That there is Supreme Controller. There is Bhagavan, there is God in control. Okay, so that is one type of ignorance. What else?
Prabhu, we keep on saying the fallible soldiers thing. So we always think that the wealth will save us.
Yes.
And so that is an easy way to forget Krishna.
Very good. So a demonic person thinks that if I get more wealth, I'll be able to save myself from trouble, from difficulty. Right? If I have more money, I can buy anything I want. I can get what I want. I can be happy. Balavanta Sukhi. Yeah. So that's why a demonic person wants to get wealth, and he's looking at wealth for security. Okay. What else? Good.
Community is like, a community is based on how we are grown up actually. Since childhood we are shown that if you earn money, you
Correct.
are successful. So that is that is like
The impetus.
adding to your
Determination.
So whenever you grow, you feel like if you are wealthy, then only you are successful.
Correct.
So that is the
Very good.
ignorant, I should say.
Yeah. Very good. So that becomes a measure of success. That's a social pressure, society. Yes. That's another reason one gets in this. Yes, Nangopal.
Prabhu, Guru Maharaj actually said that the success is measured that who ends up with more number of toys at the end of the life, who
Yes.
has got more number of toys.
Yes.
That's the way of measure of success nowadays.
That's why the push is there to get more and more wealth. Very good. So all this also shows not only the denial of Krishna as Supreme Person Godhead, also denial of Krishna as the Supreme Proprietor. Isn't it? We're denying that Krishna is the proprietor. Sarvaloka Maheshwaram. So denying that Krishna is the proprietor. We think we are proprietors of whatever we have. And I can choose to spend it any way I want. I can do what I want with my money. So money is used to buy weapons, create weapons of mass destruction, to destroy other countries, to destroy our competitors. All this is because we don't recognize Krishna as Supreme Personality of Godhead and Krishna as Supreme Proprietor. Because he is the proprietor, therefore he is entitled to be the enjoyer. Bhoktaram yake tapasam. He is the bhokta. So lack of this knowledge, ignorance is correct, but specifically ignorance of Krishna as Supreme Personality Godhead, and Krishna as Supreme Enjoyer, and Krishna as the Supreme Proprietor. So therefore the lack of this knowledge makes one demoniac. Of course there are many aspects to this, but we'll stick to only this part of it. The social pressures and all this, to wanting to be, thinking that wealth will give us the protection we need. That's why a demonic person tries to make his own arrangements to look after himself, to maintain himself. You think, I will have money, I'll maintain myself. Not recognizing that Krishna is the maintainer. Eko bahunam yo vidhati kaman. He alone maintains everyone. So that maintainer role is not understood. So this kind of ignorance, and due to social pressure, and due to another reason is the root cause. Why does the living entity act sinfully? In 3rd chapter Krishna explains, right?
Because he falls into the 3 modes.
Notes, but specifically lust, yes. Kamayesha, Krodesha, Rajoguna, Samudbhava. Very good. You're doing 3rd chapter now in your Bhakti Shastri? Number 2 still haven't come. Okay. The teachers are always tuned. They can hear the question, they get the answer. Yeah. So it is due to lust. And lust is a perversion of love. Love for Krishna is perverted form is lust. So instead of giving pleasure to Krishna, we want to be the enjoyers. And because we want to be the enjoyers, naturally we want to accumulate wealth, because wealth is a symptom of an enjoyer. So that's why due to lust, a living entity wants to accumulate more wealth. So now the second part of the question is, how does the devotee be careful not to fall into the trap? So now you can give your answers again. Yeah, say it again, just so that in context now.
Devotee will think like wealth is today and tomorrow there's no wealth. Again, day after tomorrow there's a wealth.
So wealth is
it's
temporary.
Temporary.
Okay.
And he will think, once he thinks it's Krishna's property, utilized for the Krishna purpose.
Yes.
So if it goes or it comes, he won't lament on it.
Very good. So that means the wealth is not a motivation for a devotee.
We still think like that.
Yeah.
We are not still devotees.
So that's right. But we are still thinking that I need wealth, I must have wealth. Wealth is status symbol. Even amongst devotees, you see who has got more wealth is more respected, isn't it? It happens. Let's face it. A bigger house, bigger car, better stereo system or whatever. How big the television is at home. And all these things do have some social impact because we are still affected by that. Yes, Shantimati.
Devotees know that we are all in the same boat, like no one is permanent here or no one has
A bit cold, close bit holder. Not on. Okay.
no one is not powerful, or we are not strong enough to face all these difficulties, and we know it's not permanent, like all everybody are in the same boat, like no one
Correct.
can solve anybody's problem
Yeah.
always,
Yeah.
and we know that we can't there is a supreme person who takes
Correct.
care of all this, so we'll be careful when dealing with
Correct.
all these life's
Very,
difficulties.
very good. First thing is the devotee recognizes the supreme controller. And that whatever wealth I have today is given by Krishna according to my karma. So therefore he is the proprietor. I should use in his service. Prabhupada says Krishna maintains the elephants in Africa who eats thousands of kilos of grass. He maintains the gorillas, the fish, the birds. Why he won't maintain his devotee? So that faith one has. Krishna will look after me. Avashya rakshite vishwaso. Krishna will surely protect me. I don't have to be in anxiety. Of course, I have to make my effort. I have to get a job and I have to do the best in the job and I have to earn my money as honestly as possible. That effort the devotee does make. But then he is offering his income to Krishna, which is very important. When we offer a part of our income to Krishna, our attachment reduces. The moment we try to hold more of it, thinking it's mine, I don't want to give it to anyone, then we have more attachment. But if we start giving back to Krishna, then our attachment reduces. Who gave the biggest donation in history? Biggest donor? Who gave the most amount of wealth to Krishna? Sudama in one sense, and also Bali Maharaj. Bali Maharaj gave his whole kingdom. He had a lot and he gave all. Because in one sense Sudama gave more than Bali Maharaj because he gave more than what he had. But Bali Maharaj also, he gave not only his whole wealth, but he also gave his own body. So therefore these are examples of some big donors who gave everything away to Krishna, not caring what they are going to get, what will happen to them, not considering even what will happen to me. But those are exceptional cases. So Prabhupada recommended we should try to give 50% of income to spread Krishna consciousness. 50%. That's the ideal. We can't do that, do 40%. We can't do that, 30%. We can't do that. Something, some percentage we have to keep aside. And that is the only way to get free from the conception this wealth is mine. And when we are giving, we should not think I am giving money here, I am maintaining Krishna. No, Krishna is maintaining me and I am offering something back to him as a token of my appreciation. So wealth, if it is not used in Krishna's service, we also read in the Srimad Bhagavatam that Kali Purusha was given 5 places to reside in. First he got the 4 places. Which are the 4 places? Yeah. Where the four principles are not being followed, Kali got that spot. When he couldn't find any place like that in Parikshit Maharaj's kingdom, he asked for a 5th place. What was the 5th place? Gold that's accumulated but not used in the Lord's service, in Krishna's service. Not used in devotion service. Somebody is hoarding gold. And that he managed to find. And through gold, he penetrated. So even today, if we are not following the principles, or we are not using the wealth in Krishna's service properly, then Kali Purusha enters that household. He enters the family, he enters that life, and gradually destroys that devotee. So as devotees, you got to be very careful that wealth is important for the Lord's service. So Prabhupada says we should not beg a penny for ourselves, but we can beg millions of pounds for Krishna. We shouldn't mind begging for Krishna. So when devotees go out on books, that's what they're doing. They're begging people to buy books. It's basically that. We're not telling, look at Krishna, Supreme Personality Godhead, we're doing the best service, take a book. Nobody's going to take like that. We have to flatter them, we have to praise them, we have to do so many things, so many lines have to be used, and so many things have to be done to somehow, of course it's not us doing it, it's the Lord's mercy that the one is able to distribute the books. But the idea is that to get some Lakshmi from that person and return Lakshmi back to Narayan. And that is the mood of Hanuman. Ravan tried to separate Sita and Ram, take Lakshmi away from Ram. But Hanuman, he brought Sita and Ram together. So Sita is Lakshmi and Ram is Narayan. So bringing Lakshmi and Narayan together, bringing Lakshmi back to Narayan, bringing Sita back to Ram is a duty of all devotees. And trying to keep Lakshmi away from Narayan, from Lord Ram or Lord Krishna, that is demoniac activity. That is a demoniac quality as exemplified by Ravan. So does that give you a little bit of perspective on the demoniac quality of wealth today? So much wealth I have today. Gives you an understanding. So as devotees, if we don't do that, we are also behaving like a demoniac person. If we are not using Krishna's service, don't recognize that belongs to Krishna. Even Bali Maharaj, even though of course he gave everything on one hand, but still He thought for a moment, I am giving this to Krishna. Why you take only 3 steps of land? You are so small. Take more. So for a moment even he thought that this is my kingdom. The universe belongs to me. I conquered all the demigods. I am the greatest. I am going to give to Krishna. But of course Shukracharya forbade him from giving, quoting from Shastra, saying when life is in danger you can go back on your promise. No problem. No sin is incurred if you do that. So he quoted from Shastra and said, hey, you don't have to give this donation. You can go back on this. But Bali Maharaj didn't accept that. That is his greatness. That even though he knew it was Vishnu come to take away his whole kingdom, his whole property, he still went ahead and gave against the advice of Shukracharya. So this is a example. That's why Bali Maharaj is famous for which Anga of Bhakti? Which Anga of Bhakti? The 9 Angas of Bhakti. Yes, Atma Nivedanam, self-surrender, full surrender, because you surrendered everything. So these are some aspects we got to be careful about. Wealth has to be used in Krishna's service, otherwise we'll get entangled. Yagyartat kavrunyatta lokoyam karmabandhana tadartham karma kaundeya mukta sangha samachara. If you don't use it, causes karmabandhana. Okay, so that is the first, in this verse, 3 verses, that is the first symptom of a demoniac person. He doesn't recognize Krishna's position as Supreme Personality Godhead and as Supreme Proprietor. And then he says, I'll gain more according to my schemes. So wealth, not only a demoniac person has wealth and he doesn't recognize it belongs to Krishna, but he wants to increase that wealth. And for that, what does he do? He usually commits sinful activities or commits some kind of a crime to increase his wealth. So that is the position of a demoniac person. So again, as a devotee, we have to be careful that we have to raise money according to the social norms or the legal norms or the society, what is accepted in the society. Within that, we should not use dishonest means. Having said that, the Alvars, Tirumanga Alvar, he was an exception to that. He employed dacoits to steal money from the rich people who refused to give donation to build a temple for the Lord, to build a Srirangam temple. Because people didn't give. He went and asked, they didn't give. So he used extreme measures, but that is not normally recommended. Sometime in our movement, there was a phase in our movement after Prabhupada left, when devotees started raising money, not through donations but through using what they call paraphernalia, using paintings, stickers, so many different ways to raise money because they were not able to raise money. After Prabhupada left, there was a big problem in society. ISKCON, mostly in Western world, it was very difficult to maintain the Krishna conscious center, so they needed money urgently. So they were using first that. But later on, devotees went to extremes. They started buying and selling anything. Not even legal goods. Illegally start buying and selling, doing so many activities that are not actually legal even. And naturally devotees got into trouble. So we can't imitate Tirumanga Alvar and say, oh, he did dacoity, he got money by illegal means and he was able to spread Krishna consciousness. So I'll do the same. At the same time, we can't condemn devotees who used other methods to raise funds for the temple. We can't condemn them. Whilst we don't want to adopt those methods, at the same time we don't want to comment on those who have used those methods, because whatever be it, they have maintained the temples, and today the temples are still there. So therefore we should be grateful. We should not have the superior attitude that, oh, they did this, they did that. No. They did whatever they could to keep the temple, to keep Radha Gopinath's service going on. So we should be grateful. But at the same time, we should be clear that whatever methods we use for raising funds should be ethical and should be according to the norms, so that there is no reason to complain. Devotees have to be very careful, otherwise there will be blasphemy, there will be criticism, and criticism will affect the preaching. What do you want? You want to switch off the microphone? Can you switch off that microphone? It's causing a loop. Yeah. So the devotees should always try to endeavor to get the money by proper method and be transparent so that people can see where the money is coming, where the money is going. And that's why I see in Indian temples, even now, every day in the morning, old temples, they read out the accounts to the deities. So much money was collected yesterday, so much money was spent, these are the expenses, this is income, every day, yesterday, every day-to-day account they give. In the old temples, they still do that. You go to Vrindavan, you see, in the morning they read out the accounts. Only some temples, not many, but they still do that. So the idea is that the deity knows everything. But unfortunately, in some places, the trustees are not so honest. So they close the curtain of the deity and then they steal the money from the hundi. So then that is very unfortunate. So that is also a demoniac quality, because we are stealing money that belongs to deity. That is extremely dangerous. And usually you find that in these cases, the family goes through some very serious problems afterwards. The children get very sick, or the old man the man who's stealing, he gets very sick. He gets some kind of horrible disease, and he has to leave his body in a very painful way. Because we cannot take a deity's property. It's not our property. Anything belongs to a deity. That wealth belongs to the deity. So that's why even today, you see, even ISKCON also, the property belongs to deity. Like our temple North Sydney belongs to Radha Gopinath. That actually, of course, we have trustees who are devotees, but the beneficiary is Radha Gopinath. Whatever properties is there in Sydney, that belongs to them. So they are the proprietors ultimately. So that the idea is that we should not get tempted. Oh, so much money is there, maybe I should take something for some other purpose. To avoid that demoniac tendency, Prabhupada made clear that everything belongs to deity. In the olden days also, if you go to Jagannath Puri and all the old temples, the deity has land, deity has gardens, deity has paraphernalia, deity has gold. Like in the Trivandrum temple, they found so much gold, isn't it? Hidden away from the attackers, the Muslims and the British and the French and Portuguese are all attacking India. So to keep it away from those attacking people, that was hidden, but that belongs to deity. So the devotee's mood is like that money we collect is not according to some improper scheme, illegal method. At the same time, the money is used in the Lord's service as a proprietor. Okay, so what is the other? So much is mine now, and it will increase in the future more and more. So this also we more or less covered by this discussion, that the proprietor is Krishna. And for Krishna we can increase the funds. So right now we only raised $700,000, right? We need another 9,300,000. So for building a temple for the Lord, we can think of ways to increase the funds. Just like we have book distribution that brings in funds, we have temple shop that brings in funds, we have restaurant that brings in money, apart from the donations. Right? Kala Mataji can give more information on that. So there's other source of income we're looking at to supplement. We're looking for grants from the government, see if the government will give us some grants. So devotees are also making schemes to increase the wealth. In fact, Prabhupada one time in the early days when he started the temples, you know why Prabhupada started temples? We don't need temples, right? We can just chant Hare Krishna under a tree. Why did Prabhupada open temples? For people to get together, yeah. None.
It's a place where actually you can learn the knowledge.
Education.
Why we need schools?
For education. For spiritual education. Okay. For people to get together for association of devotees. For education. What else?
By serving the deities, we get the attachment to people.
Very good. Use the microphone. Huh? Yeah. Say it again, Matthew.
By serving the deities, we get the attachment and we get that love.
Very good. So that is by serving the deity, Shivigraha Seva, Shraddhavan Srimurti Seva. By serving the deity, one gets attachment to the Lord. Right? Very good. The environment is spiritual. Very nice. Nandgopal?
I think he answered that question to Mr. Malhotra because he was asking that, Swamiji, why you are making such a big temples?
Yeah.
And Prabhupada said that I'm a sannyasi, I have no problem. I'm sitting down under the tree and basically give the Krishna conscious message to everyone. But how many people will come up?
Correct.
When you see when the people actually go to we say the big structure and everything, they get attracted. They come there, have prasadam, have the book, or they get in one or two kind of interaction. Like they get into contact with the devotees as well.
Correct.
So that basically we are actually giving opportunity to
Attracts people.
attract people and
Correct.
come there.
Yeah.
And the second answer which Srila Prabhupada gives is that basically everything belongs to Krishna. He's the supreme Lord of everything. He's the supreme owner. And if we are going to make we want to give him big, everything belongs to him. So he needs to have everything.
The best of
The
everything.
best of everything.
To remind ourselves that
Yeah,
everything
yeah,
belongs to
that's-
Krishna. Very
that's
good.
right.
Very nice. Both the points are very good. Yes. But there's yet another reason the Prabhupada opened a temple. And that's because Prabhupada noticed in the early days, as the devotees are chanting Hare Krishna and having a small center in New York City, 26 2nd Avenue, people started giving donations. Money started coming in. And he said, if I don't use this money for some project, then devotees will have money, they will not feel like going and preaching, they'll feel there's no need to collect anymore. So that's why he created projects such that the money is needed all the time. And you have to go and collect, you have to go and earn the money. And you can see fundraising is very much on the topic today. But anyway, it's the topic, don't blame me. So he made programs such that the money could be spent and there's need to collect more money. Then they need to preach. And that's why Prabhupada made every center autonomous. Before coming to ISKCON, I went to so many other organizations. And in those organizations, the money comes from abroad, from different centers. They pour in money from Europe, America, at least used to. Now, of course, Europe, America are also begging. That's another matter. They're looking at China and saying, please, India, please. They are in trouble. But when they had the false economy, when they said, so much wealth I have today, borrowed money, in debt only, they're giving on credit. They were giving money and other centers would pour money into one place and they would build. That's what I heard the Swaminarayans are still doing. They build a temple, they build temples so quickly they're building. One more big temple is coming. And they get money from US, from Africa, from Europe, from different countries. The donors keep pouring in money. Locally they don't collect that much. It's all coming from overseas. So what is wrong with that model? Why did Prabhupada make each center autonomous?
That's why that way the devotees get attached to the local deities. Like Prabhupada says,
Yes.
Laddaneshwara, like Sydney is Radha Gopinath, and that way when we donate the money to or donate Lakshmi to that particular deity, we
Our attachment.
get attached to that, and basically we actually go under the shelter of that particular deity.
Okay. Mathura Gugulmachi?
So everyone can get a chance to donate if the money is coming from US and others. Then
There's no opportunity for local devotees to. Yes, very good. Very good. But there's yet another important reason. If money is coming from somewhere, we do not know the value of money. If I go and earn $10, collect $10 donation or sell a book or something, give a book, then I'll know the value of that hard-earned money, isn't it? If it's coming from somewhere else, somebody's money, don't care. So that sense of the money is required, I have to work hard for it. The laziness will not come. We have seen, that's why in some of the Gaudiya Maths around India, I used to go to some of the temples. They have very few devotees in the congregation. And they are not interested in preaching even, some of them. Why? Because money is coming in, people are giving donation every month, they use that money to cook for deities, make an offering, eat the prasad, and be happy. Some Gaur Purnima they'll observe, and maybe one Janmashtami and Radhashtami, few festivals, 4 or 5 festivals. That's it. They're not interested in preaching because the money is already coming in. There's nothing else to do. You don't need money for anything else. The ashram is there, the temple is there, the mutt is there. The preaching is not expanding, so they don't need a bigger temple. That problem is not there. In fact, I went to one temple. I won't mention the name. I told the temple president, let's try and do some. The people are interested in Krishna consciousness in this town. We can expand the preaching. Let's do something. And he said, no, I don't want to increase the congregation because it means more headaches. More headaches means more, you have to have bigger temple, big project, fundraising, politics will come in, all complications. Better avoid all that. I'm happy with my small temple. This is a frank admission of one temple president. He said, frankly, I don't want to increase the congregation. But is that Prabhupada's mood? Is that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mood? Not. Because there are people suffering due to lack of Krishna consciousness. How we can sit here comfortably? Oh, I've got my ashram, I've got my room, I got my paneer sabji is coming every day, and I'm eating sweet rice, I'm eating halwa, nice prasad, I've got clothes to wear, I'm being maintained nicely. No need to go and preach. And whatever comes, I'll be happy. No, that is not Prabhupada's. Prabhupada's mood is, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mood is, every town and village. Every town and village. So are there some towns and villages which are not Krishna conscious? Yeah, sorry, rhetorical question. There's a lot to be done, isn't it? Prabhupada has left a lot of work for us to be done. He's done the bulk of the work, but still there's more to be done. That's His mercy upon us. He's given mercy. He said, now go and preach. That's why the need is there for everyone to preach. Everyone. Today one devotee called me up when I was coming from the airport. He called me and said, oh, I went to get a haircut. You know what? That hair cutting saloon, he is a devotee. He wants to become devotee. So he is interested in Krishna consciousness. I gave him a book and he said he wants to come to our program. He lives in Quakers Hill or something. So he's asking for the address of the whole program. So, devotee should be conscious like that. Even cutting hair is talking about Krishna. We should not think, nobody is interested here, why bother? No, you should not think like that. We don't know where devotees will come up. Airport, bus station, barber shop, sabji wala. You don't know, there's no limit to where you can find devotees. Just another point.
Another point which comes to my mind is in the previous ages, devotees could sit and chant, and they could be occupied, with the Lord's name throughout the day. But now we also read in the Bhagavad Gita that the soul has to be active.
Yes.
So the best way to make the soul active is to engage in other Krishna conscious activities.
Very good.
In addition to chanting.
Yes.
So that they are always occupied in Krishna consciousness.
Very good.
And that is one of the main reason probably why Prabhupada, created all these situations and circumstances in which, people are always active and, the mind doesn't get diverted.
Correct. Very good point. Very nice point. Because we are passionate by nature, we can't sit and chant 64 rounds. That's why I brought down to 16. But then the remaining time, not Maya, active devotional service. We shouldn't think, I've done 16 rounds now, rest is mine. I'll do whatever I please. No, we should try and to fill up the time with devotional service. So that's a very good point.
Is it like this, because 64 rounds if you chant, is it for you only? Because you're
Correct.
being selfish then.
Yes.
Because if you chant 16 rounds and then rest of the time you have to preach or you have to do some other activity.
Help in the preaching.
Yeah, so that means you're helping others and
Correct.
getting them into devotion.
Correct.
That's what I think Srila Prabhupada's aim was.
Correct. Yes, to spread Krishna consciousness. Very good. Not to be selfish. And when we try to help others, we ourselves get more mercy. Our own Krishna consciousness becomes very strong. That's the secret. Yes, ma'am.
Yesterday, I
Ramakrishna Maharaj or Indradumna Maharaj. He was chanting 34 rounds, and when Prabhupada came, he told Prabhupada that I'm chanting 32 rounds, 34 rounds. And Prabhupada said, who told you to chant 34 rounds? Your job is to chant 16 rounds and then go and preach outside. That is the main thing. So minimum 16 rounds you have to do, but other time you have to spend in preaching, not in chanting.
Correct. And if you happen to get some spare time, then chant more. If you have time, you don't know what to do, okay, keep chanting. Because you can't preach or you can't do anything at that time, then better to chant. Very good, very good. That's a very nice quotation. And that shows how to apply these principles. Because devotees we have our own ideas how to be Krishna conscious. And sometimes we make up something which is not the best. While it's not bad, it's not the best. Certainly chanting 34 rounds is not a wrong thing to do. But that is not Prabhupada's anxiety. Lord Chaitanya's anxiety is to deliver everyone. So that should be our priority. And not, like you said, not be selfish. No? Very good.
Prabhu, again, we always need to think that we are here because of some devotee who has helped us come here.
Correct.
So if all these activities stop, then, imagine so many millions and millions of people who, are, I'm not saying that, we are already highly into Krishna consciousness, but at least, we are starting to follow that path.
Yes.
So imagine, those people who don't even get a glimpse of what Krishna consciousness is.
Yeah.
And if we don't, involve ourselves in the other activities, then it's impossible. Like what you mentioned, like Gaudiya Math, if those devotees, they keep to themselves, and if they don't involve themselves in preaching, like this is a clear example we see in our lives on a week-to-week basis. Like Saturday, Sunday is so beautiful, it's so blissful. Because something or the other is always there.
That's right.
And the other weekdays, okay, we do our rounds, but it's mostly in the mode of, we are you know what I mean.
Yeah. But rather the weekday should be preparation for the weekend. We can't go and preach on the weekend unless you're fully charged. The battery is charging from Monday to Friday. That's why we have meetings on some days to plan for the next weekend, what we're going to do. Strategic planning. We have meetings on weekdays and we have preparation time. That's the preparation time. So it's not, Prabhupada spent, the first Leelamrita volume is called Lifetime in Preparation. He spent 60 years preparing for the mission of spreading ISKCON. People think that Prabhupada spread his Krishna consciousness in 10 years. That's not true. It is a lifetime in preparation. So he spent 60, 70 years preparing for this mission. The last 10 years we saw the fruits. But the preparation started from the very beginning. So Monday to Friday is preparation time. And Saturday, Sunday you give out the whatever you have learned, you go and share it. That's why we are requesting everyone, please attend one class at least per week where you listen, you hear live in the association of devotees. And during the week we can listen on internet or Skype or Mayapur TV, that's all good. But one class at least we have to attend where we are studying, where we are listening in the association of devotees. And then we go out and preach. It is so much more effective. And people you are preaching to, they can see that you are also doing the same thing. It's not that they are asking you to sit and listen and I don't listen, I don't have to listen. No, I also have to listen. Everyone has to listen. Nobody is so senior that we don't need to hear anymore. We should not think get that kind of feeling. So that's a very important point, that preparation is required. But you're right, it's always blissful to give out the mercy, isn't it? On the weekend when you give out the mercy, you feel more, the fruits are being seen. You can see the hard work, the fruit of the hard work is visible. And how much we prepare, that much we are successful. That's why you see Ghanshyam also says book distribution. We have good sadhana, good chanting, good reading. Then he goes out, books go out very quickly. He has no struggle. But if you don't have good sadhana, you try to do that, it doesn't work. Or if you're not prepared properly. So preparation has to be there for everyone. You prepare and get ourselves ready and pray for mercy. Not only preparation in terms of studying, but also in terms of sadhana and also in terms of prayer. Praying to spiritual master, praying to Srila Prabhupada, praying to Gaunitai, Radha Gopinath. Please bless me in this endeavor. Before Srila Prabhupada went to America, he went to Mayapur, went to the Samadhi of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur and asked for his blessings. Even though he said, my spiritual master is always by my side. I never feel separation from him. He is always by my side. I always feel his presence. Still he went, especially went to Mayapur before he boarded the Jaladuta and set off to America. He went to Mayapur and he did intense kirtan and chanting and got the mercy from his spiritual master and took the blessings and then went on the ship. So all these are very good examples for us to follow, inspiration for us. That way our life becomes very meaningful, useful. Okay, I think that's a very nice discussion. Thank you for everyone contributing. Those who are not contributing, please don't be shy. I don't want the same people speaking all the time. Everyone should get a chance. So I'm sure you all have realizations. Don't be shy. Small or big doesn't matter. Okay, so reading on in translation. He is my enemy and I have killed him. And my other enemies will also be killed. So what do you see about that? Enemy.
Cause of envy and enviness.
Use the microphone, please. Is that microphone right there? The cause of
Enviness, like
enviousness.
because you don't. If suppose you fail to acquire the wealth, it's relation to that. Then you are okay. He has the wealth, so I want that wealth, and then he's the enemy to you.
Correct.
And at the worst condition, like the mind plays the game over there that tricks. Or you have to kill him because if you don't kill him and all, you won't get that wealth or something. So that becomes the enemy and killing comes.
Yes. Very good. Any other points? Microphone. Take that.
So if he is planning to kill his enemy will also be another demonic person who is trying to generate more wealth.
Correct. That's true. That's how Krishna gets rid of demons. He makes them kill each other. Only special demons like Shishupali comes and kills personally. Kamsa he kills personally. Yeah. Otherwise demonic people, they kill each other. That's true. So the demonic person, he doesn't like to see anybody getting more wealth than him. So that's why he wants to control that person. Because again, back to the same problem. Ishwaraham aham bhogi. I am the Ishwara, I am the controller. I am the master, I am the Lord, I am the proprietor. No one can do more than me.
I can think about, the opposite way is like Hiranyakashipu and Prahlad. He was feeling his son is the enemy for him.
Yes. Correct. He saw his son as enemy, as a threat to his supremacy. Because he did not accept Hiranyakashipu as supreme. Whereas all the citizens of Hiranyakashipu, they accepted Hiranyakashipu as Bhagavan, supreme. So he was very happy with them. But those who did not, he had them killed. Not that Prahlad was only of course the main person he attacked, but he killed so many Brahmanas, so many Vaishnavas who did not accept supremacy of Hiranyakashipu. Anyone performed any yagya to Vishnu, they were killed. That was the order given. Anyone who did not worship Hiranyakashipu, they were to be killed. That was the order he gave in the kingdom to all his soldiers. You can go and kill them, no problem. No justification required. That's enough. That is how he kept his enemies, and out of fear he controlled them. Kamsa also did the same thing. Ravan also did the same thing. With Prahlad, obviously he is such an exalted devotee that the Lord had to come for his devotee. So you are right, the demonic person, they see other demons as enemies, they see devotees as especially as their enemies. That's why they are insecure all the time. Any other points?
I think the other point which we can say is the demoniac person wants to kill the other demoniac person who is kind of an impediment of he wants to make more wealth, but he doesn't understand that there will be a endless supply of such enemies all the time. So he has
Correct.
to keep killing
Yeah,
all of them or overcome all of them to acquire more wealth. So
Exactly.
he says that, oh, he's the only one. Once I get over him, I'll be happy. But then once he reaches that stage, he finds another one who he wants to kill or
correct.
acquire the wealth from him. So
Very good, very good. So there's no end to his anxieties. There's no end to anxiety because there's always somebody who's going to get better than him. So a good example of that is Alexander the Great. Right? Alexander kept on conquering. What happened? He kept on conquering this side, and behind all the kings would become independent again. Prabhupada once said like that, don't make me like Alexander. He's going and opening new temples, the old ones are closing down here. Don't make me like Alexander. Because we are not the supreme controllers. So naturally when we try to control material energy, Daiveshu Gunamai Mama Duratya Mamevai Prapadyante Mayametam Taratya. So if we try to control material nature, Maya, she will not come under control. Duratya, Krishna says, very difficult to cross over. We can't control the material energy. The only option is to surrender. Mamevai Prapadyante. Only option is to surrender to Krishna. So devotee is surrendered to Krishna, therefore he doesn't try to fight with Maya. Doesn't try to control everyone. Thinking that I am the controller is Maya, right? Due to Maya, due to illusion, we think that I am supreme, I am the controller. But actually, we are not the controllers. So how does... We are controlled, exactly. And that's why for Alexander the Great, a thief had to come and teach him a lesson. A thief from India taught him a lesson, that he is also a big thief. Until then, nobody had the guts to tell Alexander, you are a big thief. He thought that he was a great conqueror, great king, great, powerful and wealthy and influential and all that. Well, a demoniac mentality. But one thief taught him a lesson. Mamuli thief. Huh? That's why India is so great. Even they produce such good thieves also.
Because Alexander was killed by a mosquito.
Yeah.
He died of malaria.
Yeah. So finally, that's a good point. But before he died, he gave the message that when a dead body is being carried over, it should be carried with the hands outside, no? Why did he do that?
You want to tell that even though I conquered everything, still nothing in my hand. I see my hand is empty.
I am going with empty hand. Huh? Even though I conquered the whole world practically, I am not taking anything with me, I am going empty handed. But he gave 3 instructions, right? Alexander gave 3 instructions to his commanders. One was to put his hand outside the coffin. The second was, the doctor should, that's what we have to.
The doctor should accompany that coffin.
They should carry the coffin on the shoulders.
Yeah,
Why?
should carry.
Why they should carry?
Because the doctor also, those who are qualified, okay, and they are thinking that they can save us. Even they could not save me.
So even though my doctor, best of
They
doctors can't save me when time comes. Second message. What is the third message he gave?
he said, lay all the wealth, when my coffin is carried, lay all the wealth
Yes.
on the grounds and
Yes.
walk on it. So
Yes.
basically all the wealth also cannot save me.
My wealth can't save me, my best doctor can't save me, and I'm taking nothing. 3 messages. Imagine for a thief, what a big message. Big thief, big cruel, demoniac person, and he is taught by a Shiksha Guru who is just a thief. He stopped conquering. After he came to India, he stopped. At India, he just stopped there. He understood his mistake. I'm wasting my life like this. So he got a lot of realizations. That is just coming in contact with India. Such a wonderful culture. Huh? You don't know thief story? I thought I told her so many times.
I can tell.
Who has not spoken till now? Kalamataji, you tell the thief story. You have been quiet till now. Vrindavan Palnimaji, one of you should tell. Okay, Vrindavan Palnimaji, you tell the story.
been caught by the king, and he was done a very small
Theft.
Stole
the theft.
yeah,
Theft.
he,
Yeah.
he did a small theft, and then he was brought in front of the king, and then he said, I have just stole a little bit, but you're stealing everything, and I'm just stolen a little bit from you. So it is, doing the same thing what you're doing, but in a smaller way.
So he said that a big thief cannot punish a small thief. We are in the same dhanda. Our profession is the same. Then Alexander thought and said, smart cookie, okay, let him go. He challenged Alexander, how can a big thief punish a small thief? Alexander said, what do you mean thief? I'm the emperor. Do you realize who you're talking to? Alexander the Great. Yeah, I'm stealing small jewelry and you're stealing big kingdom. What is the difference? We both are thieves. And that one sentence changed the life of Alexander and the course of history actually. That's one thief.
I think he also said that as I'm a small thief, I'm entering the small properties in the night time. But as you are a big thief, you are actually, and you got a big army. You are just going in the daytime. So what's the difference between me and you? It's not,
that's right.
we're doing the same thing.
So now I'm sure there's many more embellishing details to the story. But the point is taken, right? The point is understood. Very good. So much for wealth today, right? Whole world is mad, and because of wealth, I used to live in Ballarat at one time, Hare Krishna, where the gold rush took place in Ballarat in Victoria, near outside Melbourne, and they're describing how so many people got killed because of the gold rush, because people are coming in big numbers to try and get gold, to mine gold from Ballarat, and because of that they killed each other, they stole from each other. So much, gold makes a person mad. The whole Shamantaka jewel story is there in the Krishna book, right? Shamantaka Mani. The story of Shamantaka jewel, to what extent there was murders and killing, and even Krishna got a bad name, he got blasphemed, they suspected he killed Satyabhama's father, and so much politics and so much intrigue happened over the Shamantaka jewel. So if the wealth is not used in Krishna's service, it just causes so much problem. And we consider our best friends as enemies. So it happened in many temples actually. Even our temple, ISKCON temple, it happens that due to collecting money, it creates enmity amongst devotees sometimes. That's why Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, I want to sell all the marble of all my temples, and print books instead. Because he built nice temples, marble temples, and in his presence only they are fighting. I want a big sannyas room, marble room. I want a big this room. I want this facility, this ashram. I should get the best facility. So the devotees are fighting each other. Of course, they didn't kill each other, but they were offending each other and hurting each other and criticizing each other and fighting among themselves. And as a result, Gaudiya Math was 64 matas. They all became separate. Each center became separate. So that's why he said that Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, there will be fire in the mutt. After I am gone, there will be fire in the mutt. And exactly happened like that. And even ISKCON went through so much difficulties. And we still have difficulties. Because once wealth comes in, we start thinking, this, I have raised this money, I have built this temple, this is my temple. I should have the right to do what I want. So it's extremely dangerous. So what we are reading here is scary, actually, to tell you the truth. Because as devotees, we can easily fall into the trap if we're not very careful. So a little bit of knowledge, little bit of wealth, a little bit of position, it can get very, very scary. It can make us forget Krishna, forget Guru. Yes, Madhuri?
So in that context, Guru, is it bad to get material success? I mean, not material wealth I'm talking about, but educational success or any other material success. Then for that we have to depend on others. When others are praising, oh, very good, you got these marks, or you are great in that, then that happiness depends on others when they are praising.
Correct.
But that success itself is not giving any happiness.
Correct.
So is that also demoniac quality?
Yes, it is. If we are using it for our own glorification. If we are using it for our own glorification. Now, that doesn't mean I don't want success because I'll get praise and I'll get into trouble. No. The idea is that we should get success for Krishna, for Guru, and not take the credit. Rather than saying, I won't do anything, I won't build a temple because if I build a temple, people will praise me. I better not to build a temple. That's not a good idea. Rather, we should be able to build a temple for Krishna, for Prabhupada, and not take the credit. Because that test we have to pass. You see, if I don't build a temple, I won't pass that test of being praised and not accepting the praise and giving it to Krishna. That test, that exam, we are not appearing for that exam. We are not taking that exam. We are trying to avoid that exam. Or that's too hard, I'll avoid it. That's why devotees say, oh, too much politics in temple, let's sit at home and chant. No, I hear like that sometimes. Oh, there's too much politics. No, you go and do service with all those challenges and you be fixed on your service and learn not to commit offenses. Learn not to offend devotees. Learn to cooperate. Learn to take a lower position. Yesterday I was hearing a lecture of Jayananda Prabhu. Jayananda Prabhu was such a great devotee. You all must know about him, right? The Prabhupada disciple who died of cancer, leukemia. His father gave him $25,000 for his cancer treatment. Instead of taking the treatment, he gave the money to Prabhupada to build Rath Cart, to print books. So he was such a humble devotee. He would preach and make devotees. And then he would make that junior devotee the president and he be his servant. He'll take a lower position. Even though he preached to that person, he made that person a devotee. He'll say, no, Prabhu, you be the temple president, I'll assist you. He made so many temple presidents, devotees who became temple presidents. But he never asked for that position. And one time he came to temple president in New York and gave his last, whatever money he had in his bank account, he cleared all and gave the money to him. And then the temple president said, Jayananda Prabhu, why don't you keep some of this money and go to India? You have not been to Mayapur, not been to Vrindavan, Jagannath Puri, you have not gone to Holy Dham, you should go. He said, no, I've got so much service to do, I can't go. But temple president said, no, you have to go. And he just refused to go. Then finally he thought of an idea. He said, actually, you know what? You should go to India because in Jagannath Puri, they're building now, summertime, they're building the Rath Cart for Jagannath. You go and see how they're building the Rath Cart, learn the technology, come back to the West and build a Rath Cart for us. Then he agreed to go. Alright, then I'll go. I'm such a humble devotee. He didn't want to take any credit for himself. He didn't want to keep any money for himself. Rather, he wanted to donate everything. And his father gave for his treatment also he didn't take. That's the Prabhupada. And when he passed away that time, the Aarti, midday Aarti, Shank was blowing. At that time he passed away. So Prabhupada confirmed he went back to Godhead. And actually Prabhupada wrote a letter to him after he passed away. Very beautiful letter. Prabhupada wrote to Jayananda after he passed away. Which is so amazing, isn't it? Why would you write a letter to someone who's not alive? Prabhupada wrote to him. Very beautiful, very wonderful letter. If you get hold of that, you should read that. It's a very nice, very deep letter. So there are devotees like that, who are really practicing this. So we shouldn't be afraid, oh, I might get credit, I might get praise, so let's not be successful. No, that is Mayavad philosophy. Our Vaishnava philosophy is, even if I'm not doing good, I'll try my best. Just because I'm not perfect, I won't do anything. That's not a proper Vaishnava. Vaishnava's mood is that, what is my perfection? Whatever Krishna allows me to do, I'm able to do. Of course, every action has some fault, isn't it? No one can say, I'll do everything perfectly. Some fault will be there. But that's all right. Let us still try our best. Put our heart and soul into it and do our best we can. Success or failure, Krishna will decide. And if I need help, Krishna will send the right people to help me. But never think that, because of me the success is there. So here the point that's being made is seeing friend and enemy. So demoniac person, he sees the enemy as someone who is a threat to his supremacy. And the ultimate enemy sees his Krishna as enemy. Because he sees Krishna is enjoying everything. Why he is the Bhoktaram? So he sees Krishna as an enemy. And that's why we have so many demons like Ravana, Hiranyakashipu and all we mentioned. They see Krishna as enemy. What to speak of devotees? So amongst devotees also, we should not see somebody as an enemy who is a threat to our ambitions. It's not wrong for a devotee to be ambitious. If someone wants to become temple president or GBC or guru, nothing wrong in that. But at the same time, we should not see the other devotees as impediments to our ambition, to our personal aspirations. We should not see the devotees as enemies. Rather, if some devotee, even if a devotee gives me a hard time, I should see that devotee is my Shiksha Guru. He has come to teach me tolerance. He has come to teach me patience. He has come to teach me humility, which otherwise I would not have learned. If everyone is saying, oh Prabhuji, Mataji, you're so nice, you're so great, oh this is great, we keep on hearing that. How will it develop humility? How will it develop patience, tolerance? We won't get these qualities. And these are necessary qualities to go back to Godhead. They're not optional. They are mandatory. Otherwise we become very proud. We can become arrogant, become envious of others. He is getting more praise, she is getting more respect. Why not me? One starts seeing everything in a demoniac way. So for a devotee also, to keep focusing on that fact that I should always try to give pleasure to the other devotees. That's why you see in the Prabhupada gives example, among the gopis, each gopi is trying to push Radharani forward to Krishna. Radharani, you go and serve Krishna. You serve Krishna nicely. My service is not so good. Not only push ourselves forward to promote, I am the greatest devotee, I will only serve. And Radharani is pushing the gopis forward, saying, you go forward. Actually, you, Krishna, if you serve Krishna, Krishna is more pleased with you. You should go and serve him. The same thing happens serving Guru also. We should see that the best devotee who is able to serve nicely, and that devotee should be given a chance to serve. Not that I have to take the best position and say, look, I am the best disciple. I am the only one who knows how to serve. No, that should not be the mentality. If we become self-centered instead of Guru-centered, then we, instead of trying to serve Guru, we are serving ourselves. We are serving our own ego. And then it becomes material. So for devotees also, this is a very instructive to see that the Guru is, we are there to serve Guru, to give pleasure to Guru. Not that Guru is there to give pleasure to me. Guru is not there to increase my false ego. We shouldn't see by serving Guru, I am increasing my false ego. I am showing how great I am. No, it's very easy to fall into the trap. So instead of trying to serve Guru, we try to enjoy the Guru. We should not be enjoyer of Guru. Guru should be the enjoyer. We should be the servant. So these are the things we can learn from the demoniac qualities, that if we are not careful, we can also fall into that trap. Okay. So same thing, I am the Lord of everything, I am the enjoyer, I am perfect, powerful and happy. So again the same thing for a devotee also. We should not think that we are the enjoyers. That I am everyone should serve me. That's why the mood of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Dasanu Dasanu Das. Trinadapi Sunichan also. Dasanu Dasanu Das. I am servant of servant of servant. So simply saying you are servant, you are humble servant doesn't make sense if I am thinking I am the master. So for a devotee these are very important. That the more humble in the spiritual, in the material world, like Bhaktivinoda Maharaj says, the mood is bossano bossano boss. But in the spiritual world, dasano dasano das. We want to be the servant. Taking a humbler position is greater than taking a higher position. That's actually greater. That attracts Krishna's mercy. If we try to take a higher position and show that we are great, actually that doesn't please the Lord. So what's the point in doing service like that? But rather if we facilitate other devotees doing service, promote other devotees, or push other devotees forward, then what happens? We get more mercy. And if the service is done nicely, microphone is there. Oh, sorry. Yeah, and so if the service is done nicely by anyone, by myself or by anyone, we should be happy as long as the Lord is served nicely, spiritual master is served nicely, devotees are served nicely. We should be happy whether it comes from me or comes from anyone. It should not matter. So that is the real test. That I want to give pleasure, not to be the one to be the enjoyer. Yes, Prabhu.
And in all the scriptures that we read, Krishna always goes to those devotees who are poor.
Yeah.
Like
Correct.
we have examples of, Duryodhan Vidur,
Yeah.
where he went
Very
to
good.
Vidura's house,
Hmm.
and even Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, like that Vasudev, the leper,
Yeah.
Vasudev Ghosh, the
Yeah.
leper, he was having worms in his body,
Hmm.
and he, after after the party went in the river, he again came back for him. He just for him he came back.
Came back, yeah.
He didn't expect that he'll come
Yeah,
back,
very nice. That's a very touching pastime.
and he hugged him, even though he was sitting far away. He was looking like this, and he went out and he hugged him under the tree.
Yeah, such is the mercy of Lord Chaitanya, right? Very nice pastime. Because when that Vasudeva the leper, when he arrived at that village where Lord Chaitanya was there, he was not able to walk because he had sores on his body. So he was just sliding and coming, just pushing himself and coming. And by the time he arrived there, Mahaprabhu had left. He was so disappointed. He just wanted darshan, he didn't want anything, just wanted darshan of Mahaprabhu. And Mahaprabhu had already left. But Mahaprabhu had gone, the whole party had gone ahead, left the village. Then suddenly Mahaprabhu turned and he came back. No one knew why. He came back to meet Vasudeva. And not only met, as Prabhu said, he embraced him. And Vasudeva is feeling embarrassed. My body is full of pus and blood and sores and worms. Why are you touching me? And that to embracing me. But then as he embraced him, all his leprosy went away. And then Vasudeva was not happy. He's saying, my Lord, what have you done? Because of leprosy, I was in a very humble position. I felt myself very humble. But now you have cured me and my body is like young. Now I'll become proud of my body now. I was better off with the leprosy. Why did you cure my leprosy? It's a very wonderful, very touching pastime. So this is the Vaishnava world we are trying to understand and trying to enter into. I'm not saying I'm there at all, but the idea is that we meditate on these pastimes. Very nice example. And he said how Krishna goes to the humble and even if they are poor.
Yeah, so always, the understanding that we get from all these things is, what we can correlate it to this shloka, that wealth invariably, gets pride into you.
Yeah.
And then once you get the pride, the want for increasing the power also comes within.
Yeah.
So all
Correct.
these are factors.
Position, power, name and fame. Well, very dangerous. Even education, knowledge. If you start getting knowledge, become very knowledgeable, people start praising, saying you are a big pandit, you are so learned, you are such a good preacher, you are such a good singer, such a good dancer, such a good cook. Praise is so dangerous. But then we have to learn to accept that praise and then offer it to Krishna, not take it. That is the test, not to avoid it. We can't avoid it, it's going to come. We'll get praise, we'll get insult. What to do? That's the nature of material world. Mother Sita got insulted, Lord Ram got insulted. Where are we? So we'll also get that. But that is what we need for our purification, for our becoming humble. The more proud we are, the more we are humiliated. So that we can learn that this is my position is that I am very proud. Krishna is teaching me again and again. My pride is not gone. It's very good that he is taking it away. Just like in Radhanath Maharaj in one lecture, he says that when the doctor is cutting away the cancer, we don't tell the doctor, leave some cancer in the body. That time we'll say, take it away completely. Similarly, if some pride is left in us, Krishna is cutting the pride, we can't tell Krishna, leave a little bit of pride in there. And that's why we don't like it when we're humiliated. Obviously, no one likes to be humiliated. But humiliation actually means that we are becoming proud. That's a fact. And this is the medicine that Krishna is giving us to help us remove the disease of pride. And that is a necessary medicine. Yesterday I was hearing a lecture where, I can't remember who it was. I hear so many. But in that, the Maharaj was saying that every situation we are placed in Krishna consciousness is the exact situation we need for our advancement. We should not think why I am put in this situation, why this is happening to me. No, it's happening to me because that's what I need to make spiritual advancement. At this point in time, I'm facing this situation, not because that one is my enemy and this one doesn't like me, that one doesn't like me. That's all external. What's internally what's happening, Krishna is arranging the situation so that we learn the lesson and get purified of some anartha. Some anartha is being pulled out. And when you pull out something, it hurts, right? The surgery is you have to cut and take something out. It always hurts. So every situation in life, instead of complaining, rather we should see, okay, what is Krishna teaching me in this situation? Instead of blaming somebody, we should see what is Krishna teaching me through that devotee. And accepting that situation, whether it's the family or friends or devotees or colleagues or enemies, doesn't matter who it is, whatever situation we're being placed in. So no blaming, no complaining. We're blaming and complaining means we haven't understood the point. Why it is happening to me? Why these situations are happening to me? Because there is something wrong I'm doing. That is why Krishna is correcting me now. And better the devotees correct me than Maya corrects me. When material nature corrects me, she'll put a very harsh slap. It'll be very painful. When devotees correct, it's still painful but not so painful. At least we can understand. Devotees there are well-wishers. They want good for us. So just like the parents sometimes chastise children, the children don't mind because they know it's for their welfare, even though they don't like it. So similarly, sometimes we get these situations, and when our mind starts complaining or blaming somebody, immediately we should realize I'm on the wrong track. Why Krishna put me in this situation? There must be a reason for it. Must be some lesson I have to learn. So we can see that, then immediately we stop seeing friends and enemies. We see everybody as our well-wisher. Though at different degrees. Some may be well-wisher at a different level, at different levels, but still everyone is there for my benefit. It's happening, for my purification. Yes, Mataji?
No, I wanted to
Microphone.
I heard somewhere like in one of the lectures, like in the materialistic world, like in the material world, if we get any disease, we don't go and ask the doctor why we got the disease or what.
Yes.
We just say how this can be cured.
Very good.
But in spiritual thing, if God gives something to correct us, we ask, why did you do this? You
Correct.
know, we are only worried about the cure. Why we don't think why He has given this? It could be for our own benefit.
Yes.
To teach us something. For here, spiritual things we ask, why did you do? But we don't go and ask the doctor why I got this disease. We do, but we only will be worried
About the cure.
about the cure.
Very good. Very nice point. Thank you. Yes, that's something I should keep in mind. Yes, that's something. That's the benefit of the discussion. These slokas actually are very, very. Actually, all the anarthas that we encounter are there in this chapter. I'm seeing this chapter so instructive because practically everything I'm describing, I'm thinking demonic qualities. Practically, I've got all of them, so I have to work on them. It's very sobering and very humbling experience to see that. Okay, and then next part is, I'm the richest man surrounded by aristocratic relatives. So for a devotee it means, I'm the best devotee surrounded by so many followers. That's what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Na dhanam, na janam, na sundarim, kavitam, va jagdisha kamaya. He said, I don't want wealth, na dhanam, na janam, I don't want followers. I don't want a beautiful wife. Na dhanam, na janam, na sundarim, kavitam. What is kavitam? Janam is followers. Huh? Kavitam is praise. Kavitam also means all other material enjoyments given in the Vedas. The Karma Kanda section of the Vedas gives you so many material benedictions. So he is saying Kavitam means that's described in the Vedas, the Karma Kanda section. The material benefits, material enjoyment, I don't want any of those. For example, Dhanam, Janam, Sundarim, etc. like that. Good house, good family, good car, good health. Nice clothes, nice jewelry, nice sarees, nice kurta, whatever it is. I don't want those things. He's saying all the other things that are mentioned in the Vedas. Va Jagadish Kame, or anything in this world. But what does he want instead? Mama Janmani Janmeshware Bhavatar Bhaktir Ahetuki. Bhaktir Ahetuki. Causeless devotional service, life after life. Only asking for devotional service, life after life. So he is asking for something, not that he is saying, I don't want anything, that's it, zero. No, he is asking. So he has desires, but that desire is ahaituki, causeless, unmotivated devotional service. So that's one lecture my wife was telling, I think you also heard that. Devamati Maharaj is saying, we can have unlimited spiritual desires. So we have so many material desires, let's make them spiritual. Let's have unlimited spiritual desires. Unlimited spiritual desires. And that way we don't have any problem. You want to dress nicely, dress Radha Gopinath nicely. Want jewelry, put nice jewelry for Radha Gopinath. Everything can do for Radha Gopinath, no problem. You can have hundreds of desires, no problem at all. That all can be satisfied because it is for the Lord's service. So for a devotee, I am surrounded by aristocratic relatives means I am surrounded by so many disciples, so many followers, so many fan club. That is the trap for a devotee, to not preach. That's why you see, in preaching, we are very careful that what is the purpose of preaching? Yes, spreading Krishna consciousness. What does that mean specifically? To give Krishna to others, glorify Krishna, not ourselves, not to show others how much knowledge I have, and to attract the jiva towards Krishna, to attract the living entity towards Krishna. Isn't it? They should feel inspired. Yes, I want to serve Krishna. Yes, I want to chant Hare Krishna. Yes, I want to take prasad. Yes, I want to come to the temple. Yes, I want to do service. Yes, I want to get the books, read the books. To inspire a devotee to take up devotion service. That is the purpose of the speaking, preaching. Srimad Bhagavatam class, Srila Prabhupada wanted Srimad Bhagavatam class to inspire devotees to take up devotion service with greater enthusiasm. To feel more inspired. Yes, after this class I'll go and I'll do some service. I'll take up service. Very enthusiastically. Very gratefully. Not everyone gets service. I'm getting service. I'm so fortunate. I should try my level best not to leave this service. So that appreciation, that gratitude, once gratitude comes in the heart, then we naturally become humble. If I am grateful to you, I can't be arrogant to you. Right? It's not possible. It conflicts. So if I am grateful to you, then naturally I'll be humble. So it's very easy. It comes quite naturally. So that's why powerful aristocratic relatives, richest man. So these are all the opposite, where I think I am the greatest. There is none so powerful and happy as I am. I shall perform sacrifices. I shall give some charity and I shall rejoice. So even again, as devotees, I am thinking that I'll give donation, I'll perform sacrifices, I'll do puja, I'll go on the altar and do puja, then everyone will see me as a pujari, such a great pujari I am. If I start thinking like that, that is demoniac. That's not devotee. So a devotee should be very careful that I am a humble servant. And on the order of spiritual master, I am worshipping the deity. I don't have qualification to worship the deity. It's only by mercy of spiritual master I am getting a chance to do service. That devotees have put me on the roster, it means their mercy on me. Not because they don't have anyone to do the pujas, that's why they're giving it to me, so what to do, I have to do it. It happens like that. It's very easy to fall into that trap and take service for granted. So a devotee should be very careful that I'm doing all these devotional activities not to increase my prestige and following, dhanam, janam, and admiration and appreciation from devotees. If we do it with that purpose, then it defeats the purpose. You become proud of even if you become proud of a sadhana, oh my sadhana is so good, every time Mangalarti I'm there on time, you see, all these people are sleeping, they're all Maya. Of course, doesn't mean that you should not get up. But if you are getting up, you should not be proud of that. Become proud of that. Radhanath Maharaj says the person who is proud of going to Mangalarti is worse than one who is not going. He's lost it. Completely lost it. But the pride coming in there. But if you are able to do that and be thankful to the Lord, thank you, my Lord, for giving me the facility to come and do this service. That's why Radha Govind Maharaj was saying in one lecture that when he used to go to Mangalarti, he used to pay obeisance to the temple president's house and go. Temple president was not in the Mangalarti. He was at home, probably sleeping. He got late night, some management problems. He couldn't get up. He paying obeisance and going to the temple, Vrindavan, for Mangalarti, Krishna Balaram Mandir. So devotees asked Maharaj, first of all, you are a sannyasi. He is a grihastha. Second of all, you are going to Mangalarti. He is not going. At least today. Why are you paying obeisance to him? He said, no, because he is running the temple is there, therefore Mangalarti is happening, deities are there, pujaris are there, he is managing everything. So because of his effort, I am able to enjoy Mangalarti of Krishna Balaram Mandir. If he was not doing his job, I wouldn't have a temple here. That's why I am thanking him before I go to Mangalarti. I thought that's such a beautiful attitude. He is a sannyasi, he doesn't have to pay obeisance to a householder. Grihastha, sannyasi doesn't never pay obeisance to Grihastha, it's never heard of. But he did that to teach us that how we should be grateful. So even if for austerities, of our charity, of our anything with our service, we should not become proud of that. The moment we become proud, then everything is spoiled. The whole thing is like multiplying million by zero. You can have billion also. Money multiplied by zero, the whole end result will be zero only. It will not be anything, it will all gone, finished. So that's very dangerous. And the last thing he says, I shall give some charity and thus I shall rejoice. You see? I give charity and I'll rejoice. I'm giving donation. I'm the donor. I'm the big donor here. I'm the big supporter. Because of me the temple is coming. Because of me temple is running. Because of me the arati is going on. That's a demoniac quality. In this way such persons are deluded by ignorance. So even for a devotee, if we are covered by ignorance, Maya will try to cover us, try to capture us. Even after we become devotees, she is always looking for our weak points. Like Bharat Maharaj, he thought I am the protector. He went to protect the deer, ended up becoming a deer. So as devotees, you got to be very careful that all these instructions are there for us, every single one of them. Every one of them is very, very, very instructive. In fact, today we don't have time to discuss all this in great detail, but you can guess, right? So I'm giving some examples we discussed. Some of the examples you also gave, we all shared so many examples. That it is very, very easy to fall into this trap. And we might already be in the trap, we don't even know that. And how not to fall into the trap, and if we happen to, then how we can get out of this and not spoil our spiritual life. It's very easy to destroy a spiritual life or damage a spiritual life. If these demoniac qualities start coming into us, then our all effort we're putting in, Bahu Janmadi Kari Shravana Kirtana, Tabu Tana Paye, Krishna Pare Prema Dhana. What is the translation? Bahu Janma Kariyadi Shravana Kirtana. Use the microphone.
After so many years chanting and hearing, one will get the Krishna Prema.
One will not get Krishna Prema if you are infested with 10 offenses.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, morning Bahu Janma Kariyadi Shravana Kirtana Tabutana Pai Krishna Pare Prema Dhana. That even if you are chanting for many, many lifetimes, one will not get the fruit of chanting. What is the fruit of chanting? Krishna Prema. If we are chanting is infested with offenses. So not only our chanting, our behavior also is very important. If our behavior is offensive, then it doesn't give us the fruit of chanting. So that's why it's important to be conscious of how we are behaving. That's why Bhaktivedanta Maharaj says, we should be consciously Krishna conscious. Be conscious of what we are doing, what we are thinking, what we are saying. It's not easy. I'm not saying that I have achieved that or I'm doing it all the time. I'm also making mistakes and learning. But at least this chapter is an eye-opener for us, to be so careful in our devotion service. So we don't lose things, and we get the benefit, having after many lifetimes we got this. Brahmanda Brahmite Kono Bhagyavan Jeev Guru Krishna Prasade Paya Bhakti Lata Bij. So we are that Bhagyavan Jeev. Especially if you are initiated, that means you are definitely Bhagyavan. You got the Bhakti Lata Bij. Guru has given you the Bhakti Lata Bij. So then now we should not lose it or damage it or harm the Bhakti Lata Bij. Rather be very careful and take a lot of care. Okay. So please don't mind, I am describing these things in relation to devotional service, but trust me, it's for me also equally applicable as much as for anybody. But there are many instructions to get from this chapter, and that's why Krishna has put in the 16th chapter 3 shlokas of divine qualities, the rest is all 21 qualities, all demoniac. So much emphasis on demoniac qualities and how to deal with them. Exactly, exactly. Yes, yes, that's true. No. Yes, that's right. That is the height of false ego, right? I think that is not me. But so I've got a problem and I'm thinking it's not me. Yeah, right. That's why, I think like this. If I think I'm very smart, I'm very intelligent, everyone is stupid. That is the height of stupidity. I think I'm very smart, I'm very intelligent, everyone else is stupid. No, this is a...
There's a saying that it's fine if if you're foolish, it's okay. But if you don't know that you're foolish, then that's a bigger problem.
That's a bigger problem. Yes, I agree. My school teacher...
And if you think that you're not foolish, then it's even a bigger problem.
Yeah, that's the Bhujan Prabhu I told you, last time. Did I tell you that? He finished the entire 12th canto of Bhagavatam. There are 2 people in ISKCON who are studied and taught every single shloka of 18,000 verses of Srimad Bhagavatam. Bhujan Prabhu is one of them and Narayani Mataji is the other one. They have taught every single shloka. They have given class on every single shloka of Bhagavatam. 12,000 or 18,000 verses, 12 cantos. So after Bhujan Prabhu finished the 12th canto, last chapter, last shloka, they had a big celebration in Vrindavan, in Govardhan. So the one devotee asked Bhujan Prabhu, what is your realization? And he said, I realized that I am a fool. Conclusion of 12 cantos of teaching 18,000 verses, I realize that I am a fool now. So that just shows where we stand, right? They are so humble devotees and not pretentious at all. So, and that quality attracts Krishna. Then all the good qualities you have, they become sarthak, they become useful. Janma sarthak kari. They become useful for us now. Those good qualities are useful, they become our assets. But if you have pride and arrogance in that, then all those good qualities are multiplied by 0. It's gone. Straight away gone.
This to harm anyone, but sometimes people just take granted for you, and that time we need that to show our dignity. Like that time,
that is not pride.
You can't just that's not pride.
That's not pride. If you chastise somebody that needs to be chastised, then that is not pride. That is required.
It's like some people just take you granted and then try to pull you.
Yeah, but you do that out of false ego because the ego is hurt. Then it's a pride, right? But if I'm doing that to help the person, to correct the person, to benefit the person, then it's not. But that person has to be willing to take the instruction as well. So it has to be the adhikar has to be the right has to be there. You have to have the right to do that. If you don't have the right, you can't do that. Then I'd approach somebody who has the adhikar, they can do it. If you're not the right person. If you are, then you can do that, yeah, definitely. That is not considered. If spiritual master chastises a disciple, that's not a problem. But there are etiquettes to be followed. Younger devotee shouldn't chastise an elder devotee. That's not right. You should speak to somebody else who has the adhikar, the authority to do that. Then that's alright. That's okay. But we should be careful not to overstep the line. No? So in Bhagavatam also is mentioned when Vidura came to Uddhava and asked for instruction. Uddhava was more qualified, but he didn't give instruction. He said, you go to Maitreya. He is senior to me. Because when Krishna left the planet, last instruction he gave to Uddhava and Maitreya. Two last people he instructed. Uddhava Gita is the last instruction Krishna gives. The 11th canto of Bhagavatam is there. So Vidur wanted to take instruction of Uddhava. I said, you heard from Krishna directly. You are the last person he instructed. Can you please instruct me? Uddhava said, no, I am junior to you. You are like my father. I can't instruct you. But Maitreya Rishi is here. You go to him. So this is called Maryada Vyatikrama. We should not cross the Maryada, the respect for elders. That should not be crossed. Uddhava, I don't know. We'll discuss next time then. It's a big topic. Yeah. Uddhava is Krishna's very close associate. Uddhava is so intelligent that Krishna used to consult Uddhava. When he was in Dwarka as a king, Uddhava was Krishna's advisor, like a minister. Krishna would go to him and ask him for advice. What should I do? And Uddhava would give advice to him. So Vidura thought, okay, he's the right person, I should go to him. Krishna sent Uddhava to Vrindavan, all that is there. That's a whole different topic. We'll discuss that. Some very wonderful lessons to learn from Uddhava. So Krishna spoke Uddhava Gita at the end of his pastime. The last instruction he gave to Uddhava, that became known as Uddhava Gita. It's 11th canto of Bhagavatam. Very similar to Bhagavad Gita. You find many shlokas, they look practically the same. Yeah, very similar verses are there. That's Uddhava Gita. Yeah, that's a narration of a narration of a narration. Yeah, Sukadeva Goswami narrated, but in the narration there are other narrations. Yeah. It's like Sanjay speaking the Bhagavad Gita to Dhritarashtra, but Sanjay is hearing what Krishna told Arjuna. So there's Gita has only two levels. Smriti. Shruti and Smriti. Anyway, we are 3 minutes over time. We'll discuss that next time if you want. Uddhava is a very wonderful topic. Okay, thank you very much. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Sri Prabhupada ki jai. Radha Gopinath ki jai. Samveda Bhaktavinda ki jai. So who should we thank for Prasadam today? Mathura Mataji. Thank you so much. And so thankful to Nand Gokul Prabhu and Mathura Gokul Mataji for Haribo.
And Hema Mataji for preparing cake for January